Written and directed by Joe Legion, we are talking The Heiress. Legion, a prolific B-movie horror movie maker. He's kind of like the Scott Jeffrey of America in some ways. I think he's got 10 movies that are currently in development. So The Heiress, this is actually a anthology movie with 4 separate stories and a kind of wraparound. So the wraparound, I believe, was filmed in a set which he also used in another film I've recently reviewed, a zombie film. And we have the Heiress, who is like a transgender, kind of Elvira type, and with like an assistant, and they've got these kind of various spirits all locked away. And then effectively we go and talk about these 4 different spirits. So the 4 spirits that we talk about are effectively our 4 stories. And I have to be honest with you, all of the stories kind of have the same broad plot synopsis. It focuses on a single individual who is menaced by a female spirit who kind of stands behind them out of view and disappears when they turn around, and kind of harasses this human victim for a while and ultimately kills them. It's the same kind of plot every one of these. Let me go into a little bit more detail. The first one is about this guy who's driving home, and he gets stuck in a foam car wash. It looks like it's meant to be a snowstorm, but they've obviously used foam to substitute for snow there. Anyway, and he ends up sleeping in his car, but then he's kind of harassed by this Asian, long-haired ghost. And there's a little bit of kind of, spooky disappearing, etc. The second one is, maybe I might get this in the wrong order. Effectively, there's like a Bloody Mary one where there's this woman who moves into a new apartment, which is waiting for her removals company. In the meantime, she's kind of looking at viral videos and decides to do this Bloody Mary challenge, who inevitably comes and harasses her. And again, we've got that kind of, sort of female ghost kind of hanging around behind, and you look round and they're gone. And then the third one is the same kind of thing. We have this woman who is in this house kind of waiting for her policeman husband to come home, and she's harassed by the spirit of Llorona. And again, it's like the same kind of thing. It's like some spooky lady hanging around in the background, and when you look around, they're gone. You can see where I'm going with this. And the fourth one is, you've guessed it, it's the same thing again. A woman in an apartment being harassed by, this time, the Tooth Fairy, except it's not a pleasant fairy. Same sort of thing. So that's your kind of your stories. They're practically the same plot. You may be able to guess what one of my critiques are going to be. But before we get into that, what does work in this movie's favour? Okay. I think this is obviously clearly a low budget movie, but I did think I kind of enjoyed the look of some of these kind of like ghostly antagonists. I mean, they're on the cheaper side, I'll admit it, but nonetheless, I still think they looked kind of cool. The most elaborate, so to speak, is our Tooth Fairy, which is the final story. Certainly the most elaborate. I mean, but in a way, it kind of looks like the most person in the costume, if that makes sense. But again, I'm a little forgiving. I mean, I think maybe that could have been filmed a little better, maybe in darkness a little more, to kind of hide the fact that it looks like a person in a suit. But the suit is pretty cool, and they've kind of plussed it with kind of CGI kind of like breath where it kind of talks and things. That, I quite liked all of the look of these things. We have the Llorona one who's kind of coming out the bath and stuff. I mean, it's nothing especially high tech, but they looked okay. I didn't think the acting was terrible. I think the cast did an okay job in relatively underdeveloped roles, and this is kind of a symptom of anthology films, unfortunately, because you never really get a huge amount of time to do the kind of character work here, which is part of the reason why I tend not to be the biggest fan of anthologies. But I think the acting across the board here was all okay, if I'm honest. I think again, people are given not a lot of meat on the bones, but I think they do an okay job. And despite these films being practically the same plots, I mean, the plot is okay. It's not. It's kind of like workmanlike and basic. I mean, had this just been one of the plots, it would have been fine. You had some different ones, but having it 4 times is a little annoying. But it's very basic. If you just want to see cool ghosties on screen, don't mind a little bit of a low budget affair, maybe you'll want to check it out. But let's go into what doesn't work. Again, I've kind of already said it. The most frustrating thing here is the real lack of ambition in regards to the story here. I mean, normally with the modus operandi, so to speak, with short anthology movies is that they have a kind of gotcha moment. There's always that little aha, the twist or something, and it's not necessary. But there's not these movies are just these 4 shorts of the same film practically, just with different kind of like aesthetic choices. It's a single person dealing with a single female ghost who kind of does the same cat and mouse routine, and then eventually kind of gets them. It's the same thing. I mean, it really is. How difficult it would have been to kind of change it up. I mean, it's just a waste of an opportunity. So there's that. As I've kind of mentioned, I think the movie has just this kind of just set the camera up and kind of just film, without really thinking what would be the most dramatic shot. And this is really apparent, as I say, in the Tooth Fairy one, where I just feel this creature would have really benefited from being sort of kept in the darkness, because it kind of looks a little goofy in this kind of like just daylight in the someone's lounge or something. I think there was a missed opportunity in the cinematography department, in the kind of like the way this movie was framed. It looks like just kind of set up and go. So again, my speculation, not a huge amount of prep time. It just looks like it's just kind of like, yep, let's get it and move on, because it just looks that sort of very workmanlike sort of direction ultimately. I really didn't think the wraparound story was worth much, to be honest. And as I say, they've used the same set as another movie that I've reviewed from the same director. We even see like the fire exit sign, and I think it's like either a train car or it's kind of the back of a truck, which is done to be like a kind of like a haunted house attraction or something like that. Yeah, but it was kind of, it doesn't look good. I would have just had the 4 stories and not even had the wraparound. Again, if the story maybe had been a little bit more on the interesting side. And there are some cheap elements that, I don't mind a low budget movie, but like the first film when we have this guy in the snow, and it's obviously just foam, and we just see big chunks of foam like sticking to the guy, and it's just like, that's okay for kind of like shots that are a little pulled away. It looks like he's in a car wash. I mean, it's again, it's thinking about even kind of like fake kind of like CGI snow would have been better than kind of just like the foam. I mean, it just looks like he's in a car wash. It's a little silly. So it's ultimately, had you had one of these stories, I think it would have been fine in an anthology, but 4 of them practically the same story, just slightly different aesthetics. You feel like you're in the Groundhog Day, if I'm honest. Just like, haven't I seen this? So I don't think it's a particularly strong anthology. if I'm being honest. You know, it's odd choices and really kind of like unambitious choices. Just playing it safe. Oh, we've got one script. We'll just change the ghost and that'll be fine. It kind of is what it feels like. I'll give this one a 3 out of 10. I don't think it's particularly strong. Let me just say that. Couple of elements I think are watchable, but overall as a package, yeah, pretty weak. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Please do let me know what your thoughts are, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.